Who bought the baby? How are we all? We good? Wow, there are so many of you. I really should have practiced. I was thinking. This is my debut solo show. Yep. Debut means first. Just checking. Just wanted to make sure I was using the right word, if I'm honest. No, this is a show that is mainly about the last 2 years of my life, a very significant period. It all started 2 years ago when I set myself a challenge. It was a very significant challenge. It was a challenge to become a more competent human being. It wasn't quite climbing a mountain, it was harder than that. No, I'm a walking disaster. I don't know if anyone here has ever accidentally got into the wrong car before. Anyone done that? Anyone? It's a few of you. Anyone done it 15 times? No? Just me? Yep. It's not a competition. Not a close one, anyway. Not one I particularly wanted to win, if I'm honest with you, but here we are. The worst time, and I don't think I'll ever beat this, I came out of a doctor's surgery once. I wasn't concentrating. I walked over to what I assumed was my car. Opened the door to find someone in the driver's seat. Now, most people in that situation would have worked out their mistake by this point. Not me. I was just very confused why he's in my car. I was a bit scared. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Is he stealing it? Is this street theatre? I don't know what's going on here. It finally clicked, and I was so relieved. I was like, oh, this isn't my car. And he looked at me and he went, I didn't think it was. I don't... What's going on here? I finally located my car, and I was so embarrassed. I went, I'm so sorry about this, I'm so sorry. And I walked over to it, and the worst part was the look of utter confusion on his face when he realised that my car looked nothing like his. Just wasn't even close. It really wasn't. Nah, I'm not very good in social situations, really. It all goes wrong. I think it's because I'm English. I'm sort of like overly reserved and polite, don't want to rock the boat. We have a dog. She's a Staffordshire mix. She's very cute. This is her. Her name was Prancer, but because of me, we were forced to change it to Francis. You see, what happened was I was out one day and I was walking her and I bumped into a brand new next door neighbour we'd never met before. And we got chatting. And she said, what's the name of your dog? I said, oh, it's Prancer. And she was well happy. She was so over the moon. She said, that's amazing. My name's Francis too. So now that dog is called Francis. I talk to myself as well. I don't know when anyone does that. I just have like proper conversations with myself. I just must find myself like really interesting. I don't know what it is. I just have a little chat. And my wife, she's used to it. She's like, oh, I'll be nattering around the house. And she'd be like, oh, he's just having a chat with his best friend. And then strangers, not so much. I was out one day, I was in my car, I was at a red light. And I was having a conversation, I was getting proper animated. I don't think I realised I was. And there was a beep. And I looked over and there was a couple in their 20s in the car next to me. And they were like, wind your window down. I went, okay, that's weird. So I wound it down. And she popped her head out and she went, are you rapping? So what? Rapping? Why would you think I was rapping? Yes, I am. That's less embarrassing than the truth. Let's go with that. And they kind of looked at each other and they went, that makes sense. I went, does it? Is that the most logical explanation for what I was doing there? And then she said, are you a rapper? And I was like, Yeah, might as well be. Can't go back on the lie now, can you? She then got her phone out and she said, what's your rapper name? Now, this is a lot further into the lie I was expecting to travel, if I was honest with you. And I don't know anything about rap, and I think that showed, when I gave the answer, Dr. Rapstar. Don't worry, you don't have to Google it, I've already done that for you. There is no one with that rapper name. Luckily, the light had gone green before she had realised that mistake there. But it's kind of weird, I get in trouble a lot. Like, every day, I do something stupid. Like, even your birthday, you think you get a day off, you don't. Last year, I got a text message from a mate from the UK, and it said, happy birthday, dude. And I replied, cheers, mate. I then noticed that the last interaction we had was exactly a year prior, where he had wrote, happy birthday, dude. And I'd replied, cheers, mate. I then went a bit further up and I realised it'd been the same for the last 5 years. It's like, let this friendship die, we don't talk. You're making me awkward here. And also, right, he's made me look like a bit of an ungrateful jerk because at no point did I wish him happy birthday back. I don't have any common sense, that's another big problem. I don't think things through logically, right? I once spent 6 hours on a bus going to visit my friend at uni as a surprise, only to get there and find out he'd gone home. Now you might be thinking, come on Stuart, that's an easy mistake to make. No, the reason he'd gone home, he was on half term. And the reason I was able to visit him was I was on half term. People pleaser, can't say no. Oh, can't say no. Easily persuaded. Back in the UK, I've got a bunch of mates that constantly get me to do stuff I don't want to do. Like, every weekend, we're in a nightclub, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like, this is hell. Come Monday, I'm like, don't do it again, Stuart. Be strong. By Friday, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go to a rave warehouse in the middle of nowhere. That sounds great. Drum and bass, amazing, yeah. We should start early. That's a beautiful thing. There's only one time I've ever gone out, right, when I didn't want to go and it's worked out well. I went to a bar in Fulham Broadway, which is southwest London, and I met a girl called Clare, and she was an Aussie, and we got on like a house on fire. So much in common. And 4 years later, we were married, and 2 years after that, we'd moved to Australia. Sometimes that gets a round of applause. No pressure. Because of her, I now live 10,000 miles away from the UK. Looking back, it is amazing what I was willing to do to avoid going out with my mates. Been here for 8 years now. 8 years. It's home. I couldn't live anywhere else. The only bad thing, right, is I hate being asked where I'm from, right? I get a bit nervous, a bit anxious. And it's because they never give me enough context. They never tell me why, you know. It's never like, oh, you're English, where in England you're from? You know, it's almost like a barman. It comes out of nowhere. And it's like, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from England. And he went, obviously, idiot. But where in England? And I panic. I go, 11 Buckfield Road, is that? Is that too specific? I don't really know, yeah. And then I say, Ashford. And they go, never heard of it. It's like, yeah, you are right, that is my fault. And then I say, I said, well, it's in Kent. And they say, where in Kent? And I say, how is this still going on? And they go, no, seriously, where in Kent? I said, it's irrelevant, you don't know Ashford. It's not like I'm going to go south-east Kent. You go, oh, yes, Ashford. Remember it now. Even when they give me the context, you know, when they say, where in England you're from, even that's a tough question for me. Because before I moved here, I lived in London for 10 years. So when people ask me in the UK, where are you from? I always say North London. And then I moved here and I forgot I'm not actually from London, right? So when people ask me where I'm from, I make it sound like I was on the run from the law. I just... It's like, where are you from? I went, North London. Oh no, scrap that, forget that. Ashford, yeah. Norwich for a bit, yeah, and then London, all over London, North London, and then Australia. So you can see in their eyes they're thinking, I wish I hadn't asked. I don't know sort of where it all goes wrong there. No, I did think that's okay. Should we start again, shall we? How are the cameras? We're all right, we got that? No, I did think moving here, like, things would change for me. I thought they'd get better, because as I say, I was a walking disaster, and I thought I'd come here, it'd be like a new start, new me. It's the same, really. It's the same mistakes. The only difference is I'm wearing shorts, that's it. That's all it is. So as you can see, I wanted to become a more competent human being, and there was a reason for it. It wasn't random. Me and Claire had sat down and we wanted to start a family. All right, we'd always wanted children, but I didn't know if I was capable of looking after a child, right? I wanted to be competent and I wanted to be ready to have a child, and I set myself a rule. When you become more competent, then you can have a child, right? And then I got to about 40, and Claire was like, I don't think you're going to get any better. It's now or never. So we had a discussion, and we felt like we were in a very good place. We have a great marriage. It's very strong. She's my best friend and soulmate. A great partnership. It's brilliant. She says funny things. I write them down, pretend I said them. Works well. Got more? Shall I start again? That's fine. Do you want to sit next to each other? This could be... No, does anyone remember where I was? No, so, as I said, so we've got we're a good foundation. Like, we've got we live in Australia, great place to bring up children. Got a good family and friends, a good support system. And also, at that point, we had actually had 3 years experience of looking after a living thing, a dog. So, the name had gone wrong, but I'd been quite good. I'd been a good dog father, and really good practice, because she's got human traits, right? She's very cuddly, very loving, but she's really passive aggressive. I've got a passive aggressive dog, right? She likes to sleep in the living room, but it has to be dark and quiet. So what she does, she waits till we go to bed, and then she'll come out and sleep. But I like to get up for the football. I get up for the English football, so I'm up at 3 a.m. And the amount of time she'd come into the room, I'll be watching football, and she'd be like, oh, fucking. I was like, piss off, you don't pay rent. I don't think so. I basically didn't go back to sleep after that, just to wind her up. You have to, I was knackered the next day, but you kind of have to make your point, really. But as I said, we were sort of sitting there, and we found out we had a really good foundation, we thought. The only problem I was worried about me. See, one of the most common questions people have asked me all my life, is, why are you the way you are? Everyone does it. Friends, family, bus drivers, all of them. One of my best friends is a comedian in the UK, and he came over last year for the comedy festivals, and we met up in Adelaide. Right, we hadn't seen each other for 3 years, and within 10 minutes he looked at me and went, yeah, I forgot you were like this. So as you can see, it was a question that I felt like I needed to answer. It was a question I felt like I needed to answer if I was going to embark on my next steps, really. And it was a question that I set out to answer. And there's only one way to answer a question like that. You have to start from the beginning. So I was born Stuart James Foreman on the 5th of the 3rd, 1982, in a small Kentish town, Ashford, in the UK. I was 2 weeks late. That would become a common theme. I developed a language quite late, actually, for me. And when it did come, my pronunciation was rubbish. It was shot to bits. It used to get me in trouble. I remember in preschool, we had to stand up in front of the class and talk about our favourite TV show. And I got up and I talked about Thomas the Tank Engine and the fuck controller. She was not happy with that. It was all down to hearing. I had fluid in my ears and I had to get grommets to drain it out. But they actually tested my hearing 4 times before they worked out it was the hearing. And the reason for that was that I was cheating. I'll admit to you, that's fine. But I think the doctor has to take some of the blame. See, what happens when they test your hearing is they put you in a sound studio. They put headphones on. And the doctor has like a sound deck, and what he does, he plays sound into your ears, and he just gradually brings up the sound, and you have to press a button when you hear it. The mistake he made, I was facing him. I could see the deck. He was going like that, and I'm like, well, this is easy. 4 times they tested me, and the only reason I got caught was that my mum was in the 4th time, and within 10 seconds she went, he's cheating, surely. Am I the only one spotting this? This is, you're a doctor with 25 years medical training, surely. But it's weird, because my parents used to tell people this story. They would go away and everyone would go, your son is so clever. Outsmarting that doctor, so clever, isn't he? So clever. And I was like, I was not clever. If it wasn't for my mum, I'd still be deaf. I was an idiot. When I got in, early life was just, and it's probably the same for most people, just one embarrassment after another. It really is. I remember when I was 11, my best friend bought me the Out Here Brothers album. Now, the Out Here Brothers were a rap duo from the mid-90s, and they did songs that were not suitable for 11-year-old boys, right? I did not know this. I'd only heard the radio edits. So one day I'm in the car with my dad, and I went, Dad, can I put my new album on? And my dad went, yeah, put it on. And we put it on and we pressed play, and the song that got played was a song called Orgasm. If you don't believe me, after tonight, go home, Spotify, it's there, right? It is the sound of 2 people having sex. 3.5 minutes I had to listen to this. 3.5 minutes. And then as it ended, my dad turned to me and went, radio, and yes, please. Let's do it. No, I don't know. Even when I got into my sort of mid-teens, things didn't get much better really, because you get to mid-teens, it's still embarrassing. It's just that girls are involved, aren't they? That's where I did something, and I'm sure most of you have done this. I hope I can't be the only one to do it. It's that moment when you see someone you fancy, they wave at you, you wave back, and then you realise they're not waving at you. Please tell me I'm not the only one that's gone through that. But I had one of the worst. I went to see a band called the Stereophonics, and I was 15 years old, and I was in the mosh pit waiting for them to come on. I was so excited, right? And there was this girl next to me, and we kind of shared a couple of looks. It's very meet cute. And eventually she had the confidence to wave, and my heart was just racing. And I waved back, and her face just dropped. She was waving at the guy next to me. Which is embarrassing, but it was worse for me, because usually you get to walk away. I was stuck with her. So I thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just move to the left of the mosh pit. She stayed over there. Stereophonics came on. We were jumping around. This is great. I don't have to see it. This is great. And then right at the end, they played one of their big hits, Have a Nice Day. And everyone went crazy. They pushed forward, and we got squashed in like sardines. And as we came to a stop, I turned to the right of me, and I shit you not, she was just there. I was like, you all right? 3 minutes I was stuck with her. 3 minutes. Stereophonics were going, have a nice day. I was like, I am having a shit day. No. I have so many issues when it came to music gigs. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. Went to see a band when I was at uni. Went to see a band called the Alkaline Trio. They were like a punk band, right? And I got all my mates to go, but they'd never heard of them, right? And they had one big album, and they had 2 albums that were so small. And I didn't have them, but I thought, well, they'll play most of their good stuff, surely. 30 minutes into the gig, I didn't recognise a single song. But I was jumping around like my life depended on it, because I didn't want my mates to know that I didn't know any of the songs. They eventually went off. They waved, they went off. And I was waiting for the crowd to disperse. And they didn't. I thought, well, it must be an encore. And then the announcer came on and went, welcome to the stage, Alkaline Trio. Turns out I'd been going crazy to the support acts. This is before the internet. I didn't know what Alkaline Trio looked like, if I was honest. My mates were like, oh, I thought the last band was Alkaline Trio. I went, no, that was the support act, idiots. Unbelievable. Nah. After uni, I moved to London. Absolutely loved London, absolutely changed my life. I'm not very good at small talk. It's not my forte. I almost need to have an interesting fact or an icebreaker. And luckily for me, one was just about to land into my lap. I found out within a week of moving to London that I had the exact same size hands as Helen Mirren. Yeah. You've all got what you came for, haven't you? There's a few surprise looks, which is weird considering it is the title of the show, you know. I can only do so much. For anyone who doesn't know Helen Mirren, this is her. Beautiful! She is an award-winning film star, a Dane, national treasure. This is her hand. This is her other hand. This is both her hands. Oh no, that's my hand. This is her hand. This is pretty much the whole of the show. This is the rest of it. Pearl necklace. Bottle of something, I don't really know what that is. I don't sort of found that. How I found out I had the same size hands, I was in Leicester Square. I was drunk with my mate Coxie, and we're outside the Odeon Cinema. Anyone who doesn't know, Odeon Cinema is like one of the most famous cinemas in the world. It's where they have all like the premieres. And we're outside, and we were drunk, and we looked down, and we noticed there were handprints for all these film stars, from left to right. And we both looked at it in wonder. And I looked up at Coxie and I said, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" And he looked at me and he went, "Yes." "What are you thinking?" And he said, "We should put our hands in these." I wasn't thinking that. But now I am. And that's exactly what we did. We put our hands in all of them. It was amazing. We had the best time of our lives. And it was just great because there's different sizes. You go, "Oh, that hand's a bit small. Oh, that's bigger than I was expecting." But just like Goldilocks, I finally came to one that fit perfectly, right round the fingers. And my mate Coxie, who has less common sense than I do, looked down and went, "Wow, is that your handprint?" Well, no, obviously not. I know I've starred in a couple of short films, but I don't think that justifies me having a handprint outside one of the most famous cinemas in the world. Especially, and this hurts me to say, both those short films were shit. Turned out to be Helen Mirren. You've guessed that already. I had the same size hands as a middle-aged woman, but she was famous, and that made the difference. And I went home and told all my friends. They found it hilarious. And I told other people, and then they told people, and they were like, "This is Stuart, he's got the same size hands as Helen Mirren." And it was great. And it's not that much of an interesting fact, really, but it's a bit quirky, isn't it? It's like someone tells you you've got the same size hands as Helen Mirren, you want to know more. The fact this room is full up proves my point. I sort of think. And I'd go to like parties, and I could meet strangers and go, "Oh, I've got the same size hands as Helen Mirren." And I went, "Oh, this guy's a bit quirky," and it was great. I felt I could become friends with different people through this, through these streams. And about 4 years later, I hadn't been to Leicester Square for 4 years. I went back, and the reason I went back, I wanted a picture with my hands in the handprint because the world had changed. You need visual aids now. You need visual aids. And I went back to the cinema. I was very excited, and I looked down. And it was just concrete. There was no handprints. And I thought to myself, how drunk were we? And I thought, I've got to find out what's going on. I phoned my mate Coxie up. I said, "Coxie, I'm outside Leicester Square. You know the handprints?" He went, "Yep, Helen Mirren." I went, "There's no handprints here. We didn't make it up, did we?" And he was like, "I was worried this was going to come up." And he goes, "I don't actually remember it. I was a bit drunk. You told people, they found it funny. I went along with it. And I was like, oh my God, I was devastated. This was an interesting fact, and I couldn't tell any people because I don't think I could tell people knowing it wasn't true anymore. And I was a bit devastated by it, really. And I felt I needed another interesting fact. So I kind of I was on the lookout for it ever since there, really. It was a sad moment. It was really sad. After London, we moved to Australia. We've made it. I'd been here a few times to visit. In fact, I got married here 2 years prior, 2014. And the day before our wedding, me and the groomsmen went to Australia's zoo. And we managed to pull off a kangaroo selfie. Here we are. This went viral. And it got picked up by Comedy Central, who decided it was the #1 out of the top 10 animal selfies of all time. Usually that gets some applause, but that's fine. Because of that, it got picked up by the Daily Mail. Here's the article. I don't know if anyone knows the Daily Mail, but it's a right-wing newspaper, right? And the comment section is legendary. It is brilliant. It's where the angriest people in the world get together to vent. If you've got a spare afternoon, there is no better place to spend it. Now, you might be thinking, come on, Stuart, a little light-hearted story about a kangaroo selfie couldn't have caused too much hate. You'd be wrong. Here we go. Starts off quite nicely, actually. There's a few like, oh, fantastic, and that's funny. There's a person from, I like this guy. He's from Vancouver, USA. Vancouver, USA. Yeah. Like the Daily Mail, they're not famous for fact-checking, but that's ridiculous. A lot of them are quite nice. The Australians, they're not as happy. There's one guy, he wrote on it 3 times. 3 comments. I'll explain a bit of context for it. So when we got interviewed by the Daily Mail, we thought it'd be funny just to pretend it was like the kangaroo's idea to do the selfie. Like, made him a bit human and that he was a perfectionist. That was the joke, right? Anyone would have known that was a joke. Anyone. Apart from this guy, he said slave labour was used. And basically forcing the kangaroo to do it, really. He's not my favourite comment, though. My favourite comment was one from a guy from the sunny coast. And what I love about this is the contrast. Such a good photo, but Australia's zoo is not in Brisbane. I think we can all get behind that, can't we? He should be happy, though, because to be fair, at least they got the country right, you know. Think about poor Vancouver. It was just fucking... I don't know. So as we said, we sat down and we decided, after looking back at my past, I went and spoke to some friends and I gave them my concerns. And I think what they made me see by talking about my past is that it was Stuart in the 20s I was worried about having a child. In the 40s, I'm not absolutely perfect, but I could probably do it. But Stuart in his 20s, because I was really chaotic. I was a bit crazy, actually. And in my 40s, I'm, like, boring. I'm really boring. I hate to say it, but I'm so boring, right? I'm not rock and roll. The most rock and roll thing I do is use a Woolworths bag in Coles. That's as far as I go. Far as I go. So we did. We decided we were going to do it. I spoke to Clare and went, let's have a child. And... went through, we tried to, I thought to myself, well, doing it naturally at our age, it could take a while, and then you've got the 9 months, that's enough time to sort of sand off the edges. And so we did, we tried to go naturally, and it didn't really work for us that well. It didn't work at all. So we went to the doctor, and they did like tests and stuff, and they said, there's nothing really wrong with you, really, it's just that because you're in your 40s, it could take a while. It could take 4 or 5 years to do. Have you got that time? If not, go with IVF. So we decided, we went with IVF, right? You are looking at someone who has masturbated into a cup. Now, I just want to say, that is not a sentence I thought I'd ever say in front of my mother-in-law, but it's happened. We deal with it and we move on. It's quite scary, I don't know if anyone's sort of done it. They put you in a room, they give you a cup, and they go, when you're done, just knock on the door, I'll be waiting outside. Now, I am 87% sure she didn't have her ear against the door, but you don't know, do you? You don't know. And we went to... And another thing she did, when she about to leave, she went, oh, by the way, if you're not done within 15 minutes, it's void. And you have to do it another day. It's like, what? I have questions. And it turns out it's something to do with like the egg retrieval. You've only got a certain amount of time to inject the sperm. I didn't know this. I went, I wish they hadn't told me, right? If there is a time limit, don't tell me there's a time limit. They shut the door and I was panicked, right? There was a clock on the wall, it was ticking. It was like a Hollywood action film. It was mental. I got my phone out, I got Pornhub up. That doesn't help, does it? The guys in the room, it doesn't help. The problem with Pornhub, it's very similar to Netflix. Too much choice, you end up browsing the whole time. I did it with 56 seconds to go. That does deserve a round of applause. It was great. We got a few embryos. The first transfer, we got pregnant, and then within about a week we had a miscarriage. So we decided to go again. We had a couple of months break, and then we had another transfer, and we got pregnant again. And we were a bit worried because obviously the first time, but also like IVF success rate is well low. It's so ridiculous. Like, you don't get told that until it's too late. No. So we were worried. Then we got to week 13. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, week 13 is generally the safety mark. And when we got there, we were so relieved. We went, okay, we've done it. It's going to be plain sailing from here on. Now, the fact that I'm on stage and you're all here, you should know it wasn't plain sailing. Claire had the worst pregnancy possible. Every type of side effect that you could think about, she had. Hyperemesis, sciatica, migraines, preterm contractions, lightning crotch. No idea, didn't want to ask. She was in hospital for a long time, in and out of hospital, and I felt like I really had to step up during this period. And she had medication for her preterm contractions, and she needed me to go and get her the repeat. And I went to the chemist, and he looked at it and he went, "Have you had this before?" And I went, "No, I haven't." He went, "Do you have any allergies?" And I went, "No, I do not." He said, "Why are you taking this?" And I said, "I'm not. It's for my wife." And he went, "Right. So has she had this before?" I went, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, obviously that's what I meant. Why would I care if you'd had it before?" And I was like, "Well, you asked me." And he went, "Let's start again then, shall we? Has she had this before?" "Yes." "Does she have allergies?" "Yes." "What is she taking it for?" I said, "Contractions." He went, "You're having a kid?" I'm not sure that was supposed to slip out. But as you can imagine, I left there with more confidence to become a father. We went to... I decided... I got this really cool... One of Claire's really best friends has a kid called Jake, and he was... he plays soccer, and they asked me if I wanted to go and watch. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'll be able to... This is good practice. I'll go and watch it. I'll be with the parents, be cheering him on. And we got to the game, and there's this bit where the striker is through on goal to the goalkeeper, and he's just bearing him down, and everyone's trying to chase it. He's going to score. They're opposing striker, and Jake is chasing him down, but it doesn't look like Jake's going to quite get there in time. And just as this guy is about to take a shot, I get a little bit competitive, and I shout out, "Take his legs out, Jake!" Silence. And fair play to the coach. He was a bit diplomatic about it. He said, "Yeah, we don't really encourage that here. They are only 6. I said yes, but now they're 1-0 down, so perhaps they should. I didn't say that last thing, but I did think it. I haven't been asked back. Where to get a new car as well. You have to get a new car. Got an SUV so we can fit all the baby shit in it. It's got technology. It's the first car I've had with technology. I love it. It's the car I've needed all my life. It's uncrashable. It parks itself. I always forget where I park. It tells me where it is. Does anyone do this? Does anyone... I'll tell you what I used to do. I used to take pictures of my car. I'd park it and I'd take a picture. Does anyone do this? Anyone? There's a few. Do you know what's interesting, right? I've asked that question so many times and I find like 10% of the room do, and the other 90% are seriously judging that 10%. My phone was just full up with pictures of my car in different locations. Like it was really into sightseeing or something, I don't know. The reason I had to start taking pictures was when I first moved here, I went to a Westfields and I parked up and I went shopping for about 3 hours. And I came back and I realised that they have about 6 car parks. And I had no idea where I parked. I had the indignity of going up to one of those help desks and going, I've lost my car. Now, I thought they would, this would be like a common thing. They would have a protocol. It's not common. They don't. I tell you what they do. They treat your car like it's a lost child. They went, I'll put an announcement over the tannoy. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. They did it. It didn't help. All it did was let the whole shopping centre know that I was a fucking idiot. Lots of baby stuff, like you get given a lot of baby stuff, and that's what we sort of found, like clothes and just everything. Like I thought it would be really expensive, and it kind of hasn't. And even something like Facebook Marketplace, I was on there and I'd arranged to get some like free baby stuff from this woman, and she phoned me and she said, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll put the stuff outside my door, front door, you can come and pick it up whenever you want. Oh, that's lovely. So I went and picked it up, got the stuff, put it in my car, I was really excited. Got back, I was so proud of myself. Oh, this is brilliant, this is brilliant. Get home, a phone call from the woman. I phoned her up, she went, did you pick the stuff up? I went, yep, certainly did. She went, did you take my shoes? Can you give me 2 seconds? Yes, I did. I'd taken too much stuff. I wasn't concentrating. I just grabbed everything. It just went... And I don't think she believed it. I thought she thought there's no way an adult would make that mistake. So. But I had to go and take it back, and it was so embarrassing, so embarrassing. I couldn't look her in the eye. I said, here are your shoes. Here's your welcome mat. I think it's because the problem with me is that I always do the easy option. I always try and get out of embarrassing situations, and I always go for... And it gets me in trouble. Like I live in Holland Park, and I was trying to cross this really busy road. It was taking me forever, right? There was no lights. And I finally saw this gap between 2 cars. I went, here you go, Stuart, and I ran as fast as I could. And on the other side, there was a bus pulling up to the bus stop. Now, to the bus driver, it looked like I was putting my life at risk, because I was desperate to get on this bus. And he popped his head out the window and he said, don't rush, I'll wait. Now. I wasn't planning on getting on that bus. What are you supposed to do in that situation? So I'm on this bus. I think, not a problem. I'll just get off at the next stop, easy, right? So the bus pulls over, and I get up, And the driver goes, "You're not getting off here, are you?" And I went, "Nope." He goes, "No, I just thought it'd be a bit weird that you would nearly die to go 30 seconds down the road." I went, "That would be a bit weird." And I sat back down again. But now I've got a new problem, because I don't know when I'm allowed to get off the bus. Every stop we come to, I went, "Is this too far? I don't know, is this soon enough?" I'm trying to work out the graph of how bad the erratic action was to how far you have to travel, right? And I get a bit panicked. In fact, I'm so paralysed with indecision, I don't get off the bus. I stay on it for the whole route and end up back in Holland Park. Which would have been brilliant, right? And I thought, I've got away with this. I got off and realised I was back where I started, needing to cross the road. Thank you. But one of the things, as I said, like I did think you've got to fight about these instincts, and I did. I thought about the instincts just once, and it was late last year, and I got a phone call from a comedy promoter, and they just wanted to know, someone had pulled out of a gig, and they wanted to know if I could take it. Now, one thing you got to know is that I had COVID at the time. I had COVID, and I thought, I can't do this. I thought I'd said to her on the phone, I'd said, "I've got COVID." But I said, "I can't do it, I've got cancer." But it didn't click I'd said it, right? So she was like, "Oh, no." And I went, "Yeah, it's a bit annoying." And she went, "I am so sorry about that." And I went, "We're all going to get it at one point, aren't we?" And I got off the phone, and I was like cleaning up the house, but there was something in the back of my head. What's wrong? What's wrong? After 5 minutes, I was like, did I say cancer? And I was like, what do I do? I phone her back, and this is when I know I'd changed. 10 years ago, I'd have gone, okay, you're now in a lie you can't get out of. This is basically your life for the next year, right? But I was like, no, phone up, you're an adult, you're about to be a father. You can't have a moment, a few years down the line, when my child comes up to me and goes, "Daddy, these baby photos, why do you have a shaved head?" I can't have it, I'm not having it. So I phoned her back, and she went, "Sit down comedy club, Beck speaking." And I went, "I haven't got cancer." And she said, "Who is this?" So I thought it was bloody obvious. I said, "It's Stuart, I haven't got cancer, I've got COVID." And she went, "Oh, that's a relief, that's much better." And I went, I just want to say, I don't think everyone's going to get cancer. I don't think it. It's like 40%, I think. And she was, "No, let's not talk about cancer." So I put the phone down. And we didn't. And then I thought, and that was it. That was it. I came here and I thought, you've grown as a person here. Like, to do that, to phone back. And it was so embarrassing on the phone, but you've done it. And I thought, I am ready to become a father. I'm ready this time. And it was great. We're about 8 weeks away from the birth of our baby. And she was, her due date was February the 29th. Leap year baby. Yes. How cool is that? That's an interesting fact. And I've been looking for an interesting fact. This is great. I can finally put this Helen Mirren debacle behind me. This is great. I was very excited for her to be born on February the 29th. Really was. Couldn't wait for that. She was born on January the 30th, so that's let down. So she came 4 weeks early. But everything that led up to it actually started 8 weeks before. What happened was I was in the living room, and Claire came into the living room and she said, "Does my left leg look fat?" And I'm like, I am not falling for that. I said, "No, it looks amazing. Your leg's amazing. Everything's amazing. Shall I cook dinner?" And she went, "No, I'm not trying to trick you. I just think it's swollen." And I looked at it, and I haven't really got very good observation skills, actually. And I was like, I couldn't really tell. I was like, I don't know, yeah, maybe it is, I don't know. We'll take you to the hospital. We take you to the hospital. There, we at least can clear it up. And they took her to the hospital. And she did this scan, and she did. She had a blood clot from here down to here. It's a picture of it. So that's it. It was like a really serious blood clot, and both Isabel and Claire's life was at risk. It was pretty scary, really. All they had to do is that they were like, there's about 4 different medical teams that had to come together to work out how they were going to save their lives. And the doctor, fair play to him, took me to the side one day and he went, Stuart, we've got about 4 teams coming together, but our plan is to keep them both alive. And I said, I like that plan. I know I'm only 1 vote, but I say we go with that. And that's what we did. It was quite, it was weird when we heard about the seriousness of it all. It was quite a big deal, actually. I got this tension in my stomach that I've only felt once before. And one thing you need to know is this wasn't the first time that Claire's life had been put at risk. A few years earlier, she had been a victim of a one-punch attack, and she nearly died. And it was horrible, and I've witnessed it. And it happened in Sydney. We moved to Sydney, and we'd only been there a week, and it was going to be a new life for us. And we went down to Sydney, because we really liked Sydney. Not so much now. Kind of gone off it a little bit, if I'm honest. But the whole thing was a bit weird, because the circumstances aren't usual. It wasn't like 5 a.m. in the morning, outside a pub. We wasn't drunk. We'd just left our flat at 7:30 p.m. and we were walking down to Woolworths to exchange some light bulbs. How boring is that? I think if you're doing something that dull on a Saturday night, you shouldn't worry about being hit. Like, your evening is shit already. That's, isn't it? It was random. It's a random guy, came out of nowhere, hit her, she hit the ground, he ran off. He got caught in the end, and he was mentally ill, and he was put into a mental institution. And to this day, Claire has never once blamed him. She saw him as a victim as well. And there's 2 victims that night, and he shouldn't have been on the street. He was very ill, and he was let down by a system that was built to protect us all. A system that sort of kind of puts being reactive over proactive. And even in the darkest moments, and there were many dark moments, at no point did she aim her anger at him, which I did all the time. I couldn't help it. Which makes her this amazing person, one of the best people I know. She's an amazing woman, and she's better than me in every single way. Okay, there's one thing I'm better at. Storytelling. It's the one. It takes forever. So many detours. So many characters. It's like Game of Thrones. Nah, it's weird. It was a weird moment. It's the first time I've been in a traumatic experience. And I always wondered, I'm sure you will, like how you would react in that situation. And I thought I would be ridiculous. And it turns out I was right. It was farcical. It was like Mr. Bean crossed with Tom and Jerry. It was, oh my God, it was slapstick, right? When she did get hit, I saw it and I chased after him with my arm in the air, shouting, "Leave my wife alone," like I was Braveheart. A guy from the pub came and helped her out, and he said to me, "Stuart, phone the emergency services." And I went, okay. I got my phone out and I said, "What is the number?" I'd panicked. I got 999 in my head. That's all I could have, And if I'm absolutely honest with you, and this is what we're here to be honest, I'm not sure I knew the number, really. And I phoned it up, and they all came, and they came. And there were so many people helping out. And as disastrous as it was, it renewed my faith in people. Like, there were some great characters there. They were all brilliant. There was Jean. I love Jean. Yeah, Jean was, she was first aid trained, Jean, yeah. She told me that, yeah. She told everyone that. Anyone that listened. There was a passing cat at one point, she told the cat. I don't know where Jean is right now, but I tell you what, she's telling someone she's first aid trained. I have no doubt about that. Then there was Beverly. Beverly was religious. She kneeled down to Clare and prayed to her. Clare told me that she came to at one point to find a random stranger chanting the Lord's Prayer in her face. So that's... like, is this the afterlife? What is going on here? The police came, right, they asked for a description. And as I said, I've got bad memory and bad observation skills, but I went, I've got this. I know what he looked like. Black jeans, grey hoodie. Black jeans, grey hoodie. They caught him, blue jeans, red and white stripy jumper. Claire was being looked after in the ambulance, and I remember sitting on the edge with my legs swaying. And I looked up and I realised we're outside our flat. That's how close we were. And the reason I knew it was our flat is that the living room light was on. And I remember looking up there, and just so much stuff's going through your head. You're like, is Claire going to be all right? What if she's not? How would I deal if the worst thing happens? And you try and stop yourself, but your brain won't let you. And these thoughts are going everywhere. And eventually what happens is they just slowly leave, and each thought comes away, and then you've got nothing. And I remember looking up at the light in the living room at this sort of rare moment of peace. And I thought to myself, I really should go and turn that light off. And that's what I did. They let me do it. But this is normal, apparently. Apparently when you have like something traumatic like this, your brain will protect you by thinking of something more mundane. It turns out when my brain wants to protect me, it thinks about my electricity bill. That's how. Claire went to hospital and they did tests and stuff, and she was fine. She had some like sort of physical injuries that would heal. The mental injuries would take a lot longer. And you always have to look at the light in the darkness. This is one thing I sort of bring it back to, is that we were very traumatised for a long time, but my ridiculous actions on the night sort of brought a bit of light to it, really. You know, we'd be sitting there having a horrible day, and then Claire went, I can't believe you turned the light off. I can't. And when that's what it was, it allowed us to talk about this serious situation. It was able for us to deal with it, because it's quite hard to deal with it and process it. But so you had these little moments that we could just play in the sandpit for a little bit before we were brave enough to tread a bit deeper. And I always thought these were weaknesses, but they're not. They're strengths, they're power. And also, as stupid as I was and ridiculous, I always put Claire first. Right? I admitted to a whole street of people that I didn't know your emergency number. That is not something I would have done 10 years ago. I'd have gone, yeah, I know the number, and just kept on guessing for 2 hours. I'll get it. And also with the electricity, Claire pays half the bill. I was thinking of her. So back in the room, Claire's pregnant, she's got the blood clot, and I realised this was another moment I was going to have to step up. And I said to Claire, everything's going to be all right. It has to be okay. I didn't know, I wasn't a doctor, I don't really know, but it felt like it had to be all right. And then 2 weeks later, they came together, and the teams came together, what they're going to do, they were going to bring Isabel out for a C-section, and then a week later, they were going to do surgery on Claire. And that's what they did. On January 30th, Isabel Foreman burst onto the scene. This is the reason I'm only doing this once. I'm just going to cry. It's not her first picture, obviously. Do you want to see her first picture? Of course you do. I was not expecting that. It was done by the surgeon has an assistant, and he took it, and I found that on my camera roll. It's a bit graphic, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy's got talent, the lighting alone. It's a lot to take, and I haven't got a picture for a while, so I'll just take it off so you don't have to deal with it. Just Helen Mirren with a plant. So she was in special care for 2 weeks. Claire had the surgery, and it went really well. In fact, the technology they used for Claire's surgery has never been used in Queensland before. Been in Queensland before. And because of that, they wrote an article about us. So that was pretty cool. And what they did, they sent some journalists and photographer to come to our house. And the whole idea was they wanted to take a picture of the family. So it was me, Clare, and Isabel. Unfortunately, our dog Francis wasn't going to get out of the way. So here we are. She's a very bubbly dog. I've never seen her look so serious in my life. It's almost like she's looking at him going, yeah, I'm in it, deal with it. Let's deal with it. Now, we had... the article went around, it went absolutely everywhere, and we got into the New York Post, which is cool. There it is in the New York Post. I like the New York Post, and the reason I like it, it has a comment section. Was it as batshit crazy? Yes. Basically, not aimed at us at this time, they thought that the blood clot was due to the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when I read that, I thought, it's not that type of show. We don't have to do it. No, she's 6 months old now. She's 6 months old. And she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's a love I've never felt before, ever. And she's a right little character. She went to Australia Zoo recently. Australia Zoo, yeah. Had a great time. Absolutely great time. Character building, innit? It's character building. I'm very proud of her, though, because she did do a kangaroo selfie. So there is. I think that's the same kangaroo. When Claire was 20 weeks pregnant, found out the sex of the baby. And they emailed us the results. And I was in Sydney at the time. I was about to do a gig, and I was about to go on stage, and Claire phoned me, and we went, let's open them together. And we opened them, and it's quite a complex medical document, actually. So I don't know why. I was expecting it to pop up, and it goes, it's a girl. It's not like that. It's not like, it's complex. You're sort of reading it, and you're going, chromosome XX. Which one's that again? Found out it was a girl. I was so over the moon. I couldn't believe it. It was such... And before I had time to process it, I was called up on stage. And I came up and I forgot all my material. I didn't know what I was going to say. It just absolutely... I just went dead. It almost felt like insignificant. And I don't know why this happened, but I decided to tell the audience about the fact I had the same size hands as Helen Mirren, right? This came out of nowhere. It wasn't a routine. It didn't even have jokes. It was facts. I knew it didn't have jokes because they just stared at me for 5 minutes. And when I came off, this guy came up to me at the end. His name was Nathaniel, right? He was English. I don't know where in England. I wasn't going to ask. And he came up to me, he goes, I thought you might find this quite interesting, but I used to work in that Odeon cinema, and you are right, there used to be handprints outside. What? He went on to explain. Apparently, they were owned by a private company in Hollywood, and they loaned them to London for 2 years, and they took them back. And I was like, I fucking knew it. And I was so excited. It was this weird kind of moment because I just thought about all the events that led up to that moment. Like, we think about the good stuff, don't we? But it's all the good and the bad that comes to this moment where I was in this room for me to be told this. It was just so bizarre. And I said to him, I got a bit emotional. I went, thank you so much for telling me this. You don't realise how much this means to me. And he was well awkward. It was like, yeah, all right, mate. And he walked off. And I went to grab him. I said, before you go, was one of the handprints Helen Mirren? And he looked at me and he went, I don't really remember. What a waste of space. I wish she hadn't come up to me now, just unbelievable. A week later, I was on Instagram, I got a message request. I hadn't seen it, it's been there about 4 days, but I hadn't seen it. And I opened it up, and it was from Nathaniel. It's from Nathaniel. And it said, hey Stuart, I found something that you might be interested in. I knew I wasn't lying. I knew this wasn't. Now, obviously, that's not proof that I have the same size hands as her, but that is proof there was a handprint, and that meant I was halfway there. I then sent this picture to a very good friend of mine. He's a mathematician, and he was able to work out... He was able to work out the dimensions of the hand using reference points on the picture. It's all very complex, and he came back to me, and he was able to conclusively prove that I, Mr. Stuart James Foreman, born the 5th of the 3rd, 1982, in a small Kentish town in the UK, has the exact same size hands as Helen Mirren. Thank you. Welcome to stage the real star of the show, Isabel Foreman. Thank you.